Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video we are going to talk about the export module within Node.js and how we could use it. The exports module is a very special object, and module is a variable that represents the current module, and exports is an object that will be exposed as a module. We could expose single variables or functions or other things in a separate file, and that could be used with the help of a require statement within any other Node.js file. Primarily, it is used for decoupling and writing a clean code because it helps you to rather decouple the code and make it more manageable and keep the code very clean. So without wasting any more time on theory, let's practically see how we could use exports module within Node.js. So let's see now how we could use the exports module within Node.js. And I have a folder videos where I'm keeping this test.js file. I can create a new file, let's say, which is an exports demo.js. Now in this file, there could be multiple ways by which I could export that. So let's understand the first way, where I'm just exporting a single value, right? Now I could just use module.exports, and I would say this is a demo exports, something like this. Now here I'm just defining one module.exports, and I'm defining a value which I want to export in that. Now, in order to use this module.exports, because it's a separate file, we have defined something and we want to require it or use it in some another file, which is test.js. So what I could use is I could actually use const, let's say test is equal to require, and then I can just simply say exports.demo, which is the actual one file from where we want to export that. Now, once I'm done with this, and if I try to run console.let the value of test after requiring is, so if you see that, and we'll try to print the value of test, we are in this variable folder, so I'll just try to run this node and I'll say test.js. Now if you see, this actually gives me the value, this is a demo exports, and within the exports one I was just able to get that single value out of there. Okay, so that's one method of exporting. You could also export, let's say the another method of exporting is like this. So you could have a single value but with a variable name. Now this is almost the same as the first one with little tweak. So what we can say is we can say const message is equal to this is another demo exports, something like this. And now rather than doing that, so what we are trying to do over here is, so we'll say module.exports and we'll say the message, because that's the variable we are trying to export. Now fundamentally they are similar, rather than in the first one we didn't have a message variable, so now we have a message variable and we are trying to export by using the variable name rather than directly the string. Now in the test.js, so if you just want to see that, and if we say exports demo and we put it into a test, let's try to run this if it gives me the same result or not. And yes, it gives you the similar result, because we just kind of exported one single value, which is a message, and then we are not exporting multiple values. That may be an issue, but that we'll discuss in the next cases. Now the third case where we could export this, use this export is by the way of exporting functions. Now if you want to export a function, let's say I'll just define const get name, and I'll just simply say okay, and I'll just want to return, let's say Rohit dot, let's say my name, and I have defined a function. It's a fat arrow function out here, and I'm just returning a row return. Now I could just use an exports dot, I would say get name, and I could pass on, that is get name, the actual function out of this. Now exports over here is actually helping you to export this function, which is the function name, but it is actually, you could supply any kind of a name like a get name or some different name, because that's what you could use it over there in your actual required file. Now here, when I'm using this get name, I'm just putting up the same name so that I could actually remember it out, which function I'm trying to import and which export, and which function I'm trying to import it within the another file. Now how you could use this, so let's say you go into the test and you have require exports demo, and so once you get this into the form of a test, because test is a variable, but the now we are not exporting a single variable, rather we are exporting a complete function. So in order to use this, so we could just simply say, let's say I'm just going to use the tick operators, and let's say, okay, so the function demo, the function export demo, and we could just use dollar and we'll say test dot get name. So because that's the name of the function and that's what we have imported, so let's try running it, node test.js, and yes, you could see it's Rohit Hunt. So now if you see the test which is actually requiring this, it's in fact a kind of a variable that would represent a complete function. So if I don't print out over here, let's say get name, I just print the value of test and I run this. So this would give me as an object, because it has returned a function as an object. So that's why it's saying object. So that's why we just used get name, the name of the function that was imported, and it gave me those values. Okay, let's see the another way of exporting or exports module. So the fourth way, let's say, is another way of exporting multiple values. So what we'll use is, rather than I'll just try to use the same example. So I'll uncomment it, and what I'm going to use over here is, I'll say const, let's say job designation is equal to, let's say solutions architect, something like this. Now I have two things over here. One is the function and one is the job designation, which is a normal variable. So I could use exports, and then I'll say get name is equal to get name, that's one. And I could also use exports dot, I can say job designation is equal to job designation. Now here I'm exporting two things, one is the function and one is the variable, which has a value of solutions architect. Now if we go back over here, so within the test, so if you say get name, let's try running that. If you just run this, this would give you Rohit Hunt, and then if you try to run and your designation is, I'll just simply say test dot, I'll say dollar test dot job designation, and if I try to run this, so this would give me, I could access job designation also, and I could access a get name, because test is now actually when it requires, it is acquiring two values. One is the get name as a function and one is the job designation. So that's one way of importing exporting or importing the thing. The another way of exporting is entirely different. So what you could do over here is, rather than doing this, so what you could do here is another way, that's the fourth, or let's say it's the fourth way. So I could use module dot exports, and I could say, okay, so this is how I'm gonna use that, and I say get name, which is my first one, and within this as a function I just return, let's say return Rohit Hunt, my name. Okay, that's one. And then let's say get job designation and we'll just simply say another function, and this gives me return solutions architect. And similarly, I have the last value get, or let's say I just simply say the value of project, which is, let's say, P1 project. Okay, so here I'm actually exporting three values. Now this is technically exporting multiple values out here. So you are exporting get name, you are exporting get job designation, you are exporting project. Two are kind of functions where they are returning some values, and project is just like a key value pair where I'm just supplying the key and then the value. So what is the difference is, rather than giving all the definition of the variables and then using module.exports or exports dot some name, so you just use module.exports and then supply all the functions or variable names that what you want to export, and they could directly be used out. Now in order to use this, so let's go back and let's try seeing this. So we could try it out in a different way rather than requiring this. So we'll just try to utilize this way. So we'll just stop this, comment it out, and then what we could use is get name, get, let's say the another function was get designation. So you could just use this, and then finally you could also use the project. That's the last one. So now when you use this way, so let's try let's say the get name, which is over here, and then we could just use your, let's say designation is get job designation, and project is, so I'll just use dollar and project. Now if we try to use this way and we'll run it, Nodejs.js. So if you see, because we just didn't use the brackets out here. So we just need to put the bracket out here, and then we'll try to use it one more time. And if we see, yes, my name is Rohit, your designation is solutions architect, and the project is P1. So here we exported three different things into a module.exports. We could use function, we could use a value, and then we actually imported them with the help of three different variables which we put. If you have done React or anything, you might have seen this is how you kind of require those modules which are there in the React. So similar way we are also requiring those modules, and then we are actually using those functions or variables in our case. So I hope guys this video is gonna help you out in understanding in a better way how we could use module.exports in different ways as I've demonstrated. This, even if you have worked with it, still it would be a kind of a more insights for you. And I hope you are going to use this within your projects on a daily basis, because require or module.exports is one of the most important things which programmers use as a part of their job to maintain a clean code. So I'll be back with some another video, so stay tuned and have a good one. Thank you.